Welcome, everyone. I'm Luna Goldberg, the Education Manager at the Jewish Museum of Florida, FIU. On behalf of the Jewish Museum of Florida and the Program in the Study of Spirituality, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our next program in our Be Well, a Wellness Program series. Tonight's workshop, Essential Oils for Deeper Sleep, features Amy Galper. Amy is the founder of the first aromatherapy school in New York City, the New York Institute of Aromatherapy. She's been a certified aromatherapist since 2001 and is a passionate advocate, entrepreneur, formulator, and consultant in clean beauty and wellness. This evening's program is sponsored in part by the Greater Miami Jewish Federation's Incubator Grant, the Program in the Study of Spirituality, and the Stephen J. Green School of International and Public Affairs. Throughout tonight's workshop, members of the audience are encouraged to post questions to the chat for Amy, and we'll also be saving some time for Q&A near the end of the program. Without further ado, please welcome Amy Galper.
Hello, everyone. It's really great to see everyone here. I want to welcome you. I'm super excited to be able to share with you all of my, little tips and tools about how we can use essential oils and aromatherapy for better sleep. So I'd love to hear and get all of your comments. So as Luna said, please share as much as you want in the chat and we'll definitely try to get to it. So before I get started and I put up my slides and everything, I just wanted to talk a little bit about aromatherapy and what it really is and why I am so passionate about this and why I've been doing it for over 20 years. So as Luna said, I've been an aromatherapist and working with essential oils for a really long time. And one of the things that I find so powerful and what connected me the minute I experienced an essential oil for the first time about 20 years ago is its remarkable capacity to shift our mindset, to trigger kind of a whole different way of thinking, way of feeling, behavioral changes. It's amazing what our sense of smell can do and its power over our physical and physiological and emotional, psychospiritual well-being. So if you were to think or just step back for a minute about what a definition of holism or mind-body wellness, mind-body medicine, to me, the quintessential expression and experience is really through smelling essential oils. And I think it's fair to say that we have all been through the ringer over the last year, and our stress response might be a bit frayed, if we could say that lightly, after I'm sure all of us have had some trials and challenges and intense stuff happen. And I got to tell you, the main thing that really helped me and my family and those that I love really kind of maintain some sense of balance, of grounding, of support of our overall well-being was really incorporating the use of essential oils every day in some capacity. So what I'm hoping to share with you tonight is really just 5 of my favorite essential oils. Some of you may have received a little sample kit of them. And I chose these essential oils specifically because I know that they are really great in helping us relax and prepare for sleep. But they also have some other great benefits as well. So I'm hoping that you, as you smell them, as you engage with them tonight, that you'll kind of experience a little bit more of their benefits and see how else you can use them in maybe the daily practice of your life to help reduce stress, to soothe our nervous system, to help us sleep and relax, and all of those things, right? Relaxing our nervous system, sleeping better, calming ourselves down, all of those are super important for us to keep a really strong immune system, which I know we all want to make sure our immune system is healthy and resilient and strong. So relieving stress, getting good sleep is like one of the best things we can do to help bolster our immunity. So I'm going to share my screen and put up a few slides. I shared with the team copies of the slides and a little handout. So you'll be getting that as well. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, she went too fast, I didn't write it down or whatever, you're going to have that material.
Interesting. I'll speak to you.
So let's get started. Okay, so I'm just going to lean over and get my screen shared. Okay. And let's go to here. Let's go to put my glasses on here, and here we go. All right. So aromatherapy for a good night's sleep. So as I said before, using essential oils before I go to sleep, I honestly can't imagine not using them before I go to sleep. I am broadcasting live now from New York City, which, as I'm sure you all know, is at one point like the epicenter of everything. Things were crazy here. The city's starting to open up, which brings along even other stressors with it. So having my essential oils handy has been really key in just helping me kind of really pay attention to what stresses me out and what I can do to relax and just make that mind-body connection. So that's, yeah. Okay, let's see here. All right, so here's a kind of a definition of aromatherapy that I like to use with a lot of my students. And I won't, you can read it. I'm not going to read it for you, but there's a couple of things that I just want to point out about this definition that I think is really important to kind of understand what aromatherapy is actually. Because I know a lot of people hear the word aromatherapy and I don't know, you might think of like, fragrance oils or things to scent your home, or I don't know if you remember back in the 70s and 80s, there was like potpourri or things like that, or like Glade plugins. Like you think of these things that are just really for home fragrance. But aromatherapy actually has a lot of science behind it and about how our sense of smell actually triggers through neurological signaling the release of certain hormones and neurotransmitters that actually have a profound effect on our overall physiology. So when I think about describing and experiencing aromatherapy, it's really the use of essential oils specifically in the overall well-being of our mind-body connection, mind-body spirit, through that triggering that happens through our sense of smell. Now, another thing is aromatherapy is really focused on essential oils. So for those of you who aren't really that familiar with essential oils are liquid aromatic extracts that are taken out of aromatic plants, mostly medicinal plants, in a really specialized way called steam distillation. So I don't know if any of you are really familiar with herbal medicine, right? Herbal medicine, like many of you may know it, like taking turmeric to help inflammation, or taking echinacea to improve your immunity, etc. Right? We all kind of know about these herbal remedies. So when these herbal remedies, when an herbalist actually prescribes them, or you go to someplace like Whole Foods or a local health food store to get these herbal supplements, basically those herbal supplements, what they've done is they've taken the plant like echinacea or arnica, and they've extracted certain active compounds and molecules, and then taken those extractions and then compounded them kind of like a pharmacist, so to speak, in something that we can take internally. So aromatherapy is actually a form of herbal medicine, but instead of taking out those specific active compounds that you might find like in an echinacea tincture, echinacea, supplement, it's taking out only the aromatic components of the plant, only that which we smell. And so an essential oil, which comes in a bottle like this, and you guys, some of you have those little teeny tiny vials, those liquid extracts are really potent and really concentrated. You know, it takes acres and acres of plant material just to result in a small amount of essential oils. In fact, I used to take students on a trip to actually harvest and distill essential oils in Sedona before the pandemic. And we would, you know, spend a whole day collecting like, I don't know, 12 bushels, I'm talking huge bushels of plant material. And we would put it through the distillation and it would only yield 4 to 6 ounces. So that just gives you a visual on how much plant material is actually needed to result in these beautiful aromatic extracts. So essential oils are really the heart of aromatherapy and what we use as an aromatherapist to create our remedies and to affect both physiological and emotional and psychological shifts and changes. Okay, so in your kit, what you have are 5 different essential oils, okay? And like I said, I put together this collection because I felt these 5 are really, really good for helping us kind of decompress and relax both our body and our mind before sleep. So before we get into smelling, I just want to talk a little bit about sleep. And I want to talk about how it's hard to go to sleep and what it is that we have to deal with when it's so difficult to go to sleep. So for me, and I think when I have sleeping issues, it happens in 2 ways. I'm either so wound up physically, right? Like I've been doing things, physical activity, or I'm just like tense in my body that my brain is so exhausted, right? That I can't even think straight, but my body feels tense. It's not relaxing. I can't get it to calm down, okay? Which might even result maybe in an accelerated heart rate, in aches and pains and muscle stiffness, right? That's not allowing my body to kind of let go and relax, even though my brain is like totally knocked out. So there's the physical portion of trying to help ourselves sleep. And then there's the opposite, which has also happened to me, right? Where my body is just so exhausted, but my brain won't turn off, okay? That no matter how hard my body is like just wants to sleep and rest, my brain is like keeping it up, you know? So when we're talking about how we can have better sleep, how we can have deeper sleep, we have to get those 2 things synced, right? We have to get both our body and our mind relaxed and in a space to let go and to rest. And that state of deep rest is so important for our overall health and well-being. And this is where we can really reach towards things like essential oils to really help us kind of relax both body and mind. So with that little bit, I would love it if we could start smelling some of the oils and experiencing a little bit about how they make us feel. So I really like to use when I'm teaching a class, I like to generally use these are called little scent strips. And what I do is I take my essential oil and I drop a drop on my scent strip. And then I usually just hold it under my nose and smell it. So for those of you at home who have the little teeny tiny vials, what I would ask you to do at this point is to very carefully wiggle out that stopper that's in the top of the vial very carefully so it doesn't spill everywhere. And what you're going to do, like a really great way to smell it, is in that stopper, there should be a little like protruding piece of plastic that almost looks like a little stick. And you're going to pull that out and you're going to sit quietly. You're going to close your eyes and you're going to hold that little cap with the little stick coming out of it. And you're going to hold it right underneath your nose. And you're going to close your eyes and you're going to breathe normally. And you're going to wave that little cap back and forth under your nostrils. And you're going to pay attention to 3 things for me. Number 1, you're going to pay attention to how that aroma of lavender makes you feel. What emotion comes up for you? Then I want you to pay attention to where in your body you feel it relaxing or helping you release tension, or maybe you just feel it swimming around in your sinuses, or maybe you feel it for some weird reason in your bottom left toe or something, so, but pay attention to where physically it is. And then next, I want you to just think about if there's any memory that comes up, any language, any words, something that's more part of like the intellectual part of you rather than that feeling part. Okay? So let's just take a second and smell our lavender and see if we can pay attention to how it makes us feel, where we feel it in our bodies, and maybe any memories or words that come up. And if you have a little notebook or a notepad or something to take notes on, or you just want to remember kind of that experience, just kind of, you can throw it into the chat to share with the group and share with us later. That would be great. And I would love to just talk a little bit about some of the aromatherapeutic properties of lavender. So lavender is steam distilled. It's extracted out of the flowering tops of lavender, okay? Lavender grows all over the world. There's lavender farms here in Long Island and in New Jersey. It grows in Oregon. It grows all over the United States. It grows up in Canada. It grows in India. It grows in the Middle East. It grows in France. Really, you can find some species of lavender and lavender that's what's called the true lavender, which is Lavandula angustifolia, which is its botanical name, really growing all over. And it's a plant that's been used and integrated into our health and wellness practices since ancient times. Lavender was a plant that human beings just immediately came into relationship with, started to use and notice how it affected both their minds, their bodies, and their emotions. Lavender has been studied extensively, and it has been shown to have some really powerful active molecules that are known to sedate the central nervous system, and also really good for skincare and digestive issues. So if I were to kind of break down like the areas where lavender really has powerful aromatherapeutic effects, definitely with our central nervous system by relaxing and calming the mind and soothing anxiety and relaxing us. It also is a really powerful oil when it comes to treating skincare conditions, whether it be tissue repair, wound healing, cleansing. And then also really just a general powerful anti-inflammatory, which then can be applied in, for digestive upsets, respiratory upsets, any place our body is having an inflammatory response or reaction, lavender can be really useful. Lavender is also one of those oils that is also incredibly safe. So if you were wiggling out that little cap and it accidentally got on your hands or all over you, not to worry. It is a really safe oil. It's not known to cause any adverse reactions. What else can I say about lavender? It's also considered an oil, I think, I mean, as you can imagine, I've been using essential oils for 20 something years. So I have a collection of over 100 different oils. And I got to say, I never leave the house without my bottle of lavender. And I know that sounds like so cheesy and cliche for an aromatherapist to say that, but it's like really true. Lavender like works for everything. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife or something, right? That it has some kind of tool in it that, you can, open this and slice this and do this, right? It does kind of everything. So lavender is definitely an oil I would never leave the house with. Now, one thing I want to say before we get into the other essential oils is I know a lot of people ask me, well, okay, it smells beautiful. It's in this little vial. I know it's concentrated and highly potent and all of this, but how do you actually use essential oils? And I would say that to me, one of the best ways to use them is really number one, just by smelling them. All right. I know that sounds really simple and you might think, oh my God, just by smelling it, it's going to help me. Believe me, it will. And for anyone in this group who is listening, who knows anyone or they themselves are recovered from COVID and you lost your sense of smell, you probably know how important now it is. Maybe before you weren't thinking how important it was before, but definitely our sense of smell is really integral to our wellness and our overall functioning of our physiology, hormone releasing, neurotransmitter releasing, etc. So just by smelling an essential oil, you can have a great and profound effect on your overall well-being. The next way you can use an essential oil is by adding it into like what we call a base or a carrier that dilutes its potency so there won't be any potential harm to our skin. And I'm going to teach you how to do that tonight. And then there is, you would actually mix it into another something. And then another way that we can use an essential oil is in a diffuser. I'm sure some of you know what an aromatherapy diffuser is, right? And it releases and vaporizes the oil in the air, and we get like this very aromatic experience in our space. Okay, so those to me are like the three great ways to use essential oils. So this was lavender, lavandula angustifolia. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory, has affinities to the skin, our digestive, our nervous system. And it also has, I have musculoskeletal in there because remember when I told you when before I go to sleep, my body sometimes really tenses. I find lavender is really great as releasing tension in our musculoskeletal system. And it also has some really powerful pain relieving properties as well. So the next essential oil that we're going to look at is coriander seed. And this is actually kind of an unusual oil. I know a lot of people may not have ever smelled it before. And this is steam distilled from the seeds of the coriander, which is also known as cilantro, right? The coriander seed is the plant part that the essential oil comes out of. And just an aside, which I find very interesting and fascinating about essential oils, is that you can get an entirely different essential oil with a completely different smell from different parts of the plant. So take cilantro, for example. If you were to just take the leaves of the cilantro herb and distill those, you would get, even though it's from the same plant and the botanical name would be the same, Coriandrum sativum, it would be the same botanical name, but because it was extracted from the leaf, it's going to have a totally different smell than when we take it from the seed. Okay. So coriander seed has a very different aromatic profile than the cilantro or coriander leaf. Now, the reason why I wanted to share coriander with you, and at this point, I would really encourage you all to take out your little vial, those of you who have it, wiggle out the top, take that little pointy stick in there, close your eyes, get yourself centered, smell the oil. Here, I will get some coriander on mine. Sit and smell it and experience how it makes you feel, where you feel it in your body, etc. Take note of that. And then I'm going to just tell you a little bit about its therapeutic properties. So I intentionally wanted to bring coriander seed here because coriander seed actually is made up of a very large percentage of molecules that are the same molecules that are in lavender. Isn't that amazing? So there's a molecule called linalool, and coriander seed has a really large amount of that molecule in it, and so does lavender. So that molecule has been studied extensively. It's spelled Linool. You could Google it, linalool for relaxation or anti-anxiety or things like that. And it is amazing, right? That coriander seed has this anti-inflammatory, soothing, relaxing to our central nervous system molecule that also exists in lavender. Now, I particularly like coriander seed to relax a nervous belly and a nervous stomach. Oils that are essential oils that are extracted from seeds tend to have a great affinity with our digestive system. So anything going on in our belly, I find coriander seed really relaxing for nervous belly, for we have that expression, right? We were churning and churning in our head. Well, that's a digestive term, churning and churning in our gut. Right? We even use words like, I can't digest that. It's just too much for me. I can't digest that thought, right? These are all, kind of digestive metaphors. So I thought coriander would be a nice oil to bring in here to introduce you to its sedating, quieting, pain relieving, anti-inflammatory properties as well. So that is a bit about coriander seed. So that's what I brought. And you might notice too that it has as well almost like a sweetness, slightly sweet, like there's a little bit of a floral, sweet, airy experience as lavender has. So that is coriander seed. The next one oil that I wanted to share with you is called Clary Sage. So Clary Sage, the botanical name is Salvia scleria. Clary Sage is actually a botanical relative of lavender. They're from the same botanical family. And Clary Sage is actually a very close relative of sage, like the sage that we, that we cook with. That's part of our culinary palette of herbs. So Clary Sage is a really beautiful sage plant. It has these very kind of dramatic and fleshy flowers that have a very kind of intoxicating and transporting aroma. And that is where the essential oils are taken out of. So those of you that have the kit or have Clary Sage near you, let's all of us take it out and take a minute to smell Clary Sage. And as you're smelling it, I just want to share with you a little bit about its aromatic properties. So Clary Sage, maybe you've noticed it has a little more of a herbaceous, maybe greener, earthier, muskier aroma than the lavender and the coriander seed. But guess what? It has that same molecule, linalool, that lavender and coriander seed both have, that has been shown to relax our central nervous system and to help us disperse muscle tension and aches and pains. And that's one of the reasons why I really brought on Clary Sage, because it's known to be a very powerful antispasmodic. So for me, right, when I was telling you that I get really tense sometimes in my body, Clary Sage is, when I especially combine it with lavender and coriander seed, it like totally releases my muscles and is super relaxing to my body. So then I can fully let go and get some good rest. So that was the primary reason why I brought Clary Sage kind of into our little review of oils that are really great for sedating the central nervous system. Clary Sage, many of you may know of Clary Sage or have heard of it. It often gets associated with women's issues, so to speak, or women's cycles. But its primary affinity for that is mostly for its really powerful antispasmodic and pain relieving properties, and really releasing where we have emotional holding. Which is why I think that there's a lot of affinity when we're talking about women's cycles and the interconnection of balancing out moods and stuff like that. So it's definitely very helpful for that. It's generally recommended not to apply Clary Sage physically to the body if you are in your first trimester, because of its really powerful antispasmodic properties, right? It has this push. Like Clary Sage kind of suggests our body to let go, to relax. And obviously we don't want to do that in the first trimester. So it's a beautiful oil to smell and enjoy its aromatic profile, but I would not recommend applying it if in your first trimester. But it is a beautiful oil for muscle relaxation and general dispersing of like anxiety and nervous tension. Like I'll use Clary Sage. Sometimes I'll carry with me around for the day when I get into that like busy, like New York, oh, I gotta get 20 things done today kind of mentality. Clary Sage is really nice for me to be like, okay, wait a minute. Why am I pushing so hard? It's all going to be what it's going to be, etc. It kind of grounds me again and brings me back to the present so I can relax and allow my body to kind of readjust and reset. The next essential oil that I wanted to share about is Roman chamomile. So Roman chamomile, Anthemis nobilis, is a relative of the chamomile, Matricaria recutita, which is the chamomile we drink when we drink chamomile tea. They're related, but they're not the same plant. Like the tea chamomile that we drink, this is all comes from the flower, like all the medicinal properties and the essential oils all come from these little teeny tiny delicate daisy-like flowers. And like lavender and coriander, it has a rich ancient history of use, both medicinally and in culinary experiences, right, through all sorts of civilizations. But it's, I would say one thing, if I were to think of one word for chamomile, it would be anti-inflammatory. So when we think about anti-inflammatory, we're thinking about it like for everything, right? For an inflammatory mood, an inflammatory skin condition, an inflammatory belly, an inflammatory muscle, right? Anything that's inflamed and aggravated and hot and like tense, whatever. Chamomile is really great for relaxing and releasing and soothing and repairing. So chamomile is like just a really great oil to add to our mix to help us find that experience of quiet and release that we need before going to sleep. So if you're smelling chamomile, you could wiggle it out and smell it. lavender is very, very strong. I bet you didn't expect that, right? It has a really, really strong, sweet aroma, and it really lingers long after you put the top back. So if for any reason you accidentally spilled it on you, you're going to smell like chamomile for a long time, I'm going to tell you right now, but it won't hurt you. It's a totally safe oil, but it definitely lingers. Okay. So it's very floral. It's very sweet. It has almost like a honey, like cloying kind of sweetness to it. And it's really great for inspiring a peaceful state of mind. So that is chamomile. Okay, great affinities for the skin, digestive, and central nervous system. And then finally, our next and final oil, I believe, right, is marjoram. So marjoram, Origanum majorana, is another relative of lavender and sage, and also a relative of oregano. Oregano's botanical name is Origanum vulgare, and this is Origanum majorana. And this is the marjoram that we actually eat with, like it's part of our culinary palette. This is the same marjoram. It grows all over the world, is pretty ubiquitous. You could find it anywhere. And if you're smelling it right now, which I encourage you to wiggle out the little cap and smell it. Let's see here. It has almost like a spicy, what almost feels a little energizing. And you would say to yourself, oh my gosh, Amy, why are you having us smell this before going to bed? It smells a little too like peppery and lively and opening, etc. Well, that is true. It definitely has a lot of activity in this oil because it is a really good antibacterial, really good germ protector, immune supporter. It's great for circulation. And it also has a great affinity to our upper respiratory to help us breathe, to help us, expectorate, to get rid of microbes, all of that. But really the main reason why I incorporated it into our sleep blend is that marjoram is a really powerful relaxant to our muscle tissues. It is a powerful antispasmodic, really good for releasing muscle tension in our body. And I also really like the properties of marjoram and how it also really clears and opens my breathing. Any of you who have had trouble sleeping or quieting your mind, you know how important it is to do breath work and breathing exercises, having your breath and your mind connect and opening your chest and feeling more expansive breath. And marjoram definitely helps with that. I'm sure some of you are experiencing that probably, right? I do when I smell it, for sure. Definitely resonates in my respiratory. So that was really the main reason that I brought up marjoram, was for its really powerful affinity to respiratory and muscle, and kind of releasing our muscle tissue. So these are the 5 essential oils that I wanted to share with you. And please share comments, what you thought of them. And now what I'd really like to share with you is some recipes. So if you guys are now, your curiosity is piqued, you loved the way that some of these things smell together. And one of the reasons why I really like putting it on strips is because then I put my little scent strips together and I smell how the different oils smell together. And if you don't have these scent strips, all you need to do, right, is just maybe put 2 of your little vials together. Like I put my little essential oils together here. You could put your little vials together and then just hold them next to each other and do this with your nose. So you smell how they smell together. And that's a way that you can learn which oil you like to blend with another oil is how they smell together. And you could put all 5 together, you could put 3 together, you could put 4 together, and you can then start layering up what you think might smell good. So what I've shared with you is what I think are some fun recipes, depending on what kind of hard time of a sleeper you are. If you're someone who's dealing with an overactive mind or a tense body or whatever, these were just some of the recipes that I thought you might want to play around with. So for body stress, 3 drops of Clary Sage, 4 drops of Marjoram, 7 drops of Lavender, 1 drop of Chamomile. And then for mind, breath, peace, Coriander Seed 6 drops, Roman Chamomile 1, Lavender 7, quiet and overactive mind, Lavender 7, Marjoram 5, Coriander 4. And I believe you have in your kit, for those of you who got the kit, you have those little teeny cute little bottles. And this is where you can mix up that little blend. Okay. And I have here, if you can see, these disposable pipettes that help me drop things into other things. Or I believe, you could try and drip out of those vials as well into that little bottle. But it might be easier to go on Amazon too and find a little dropper like this to help you. Okay. So those are some, yeah.
I want to just ask you, do we need any oils to dilute these blends?
100%. And I'm going to show you that on the next slide.
Wonderful.
Okay. So now that you have these little blends together, before you apply them to your skin, you are going to add them to a carrier oil. So this is a recipe for a massage oil. Okay. So I'm going to show you basically really quickly how you can make one. Let me just get my little thing organized over here. So basically, I have here a bottle. It's 1 ounce and it has a dropper on it. Okay. And 1 ounce is approximately equivalent to 2 tablespoons of oil. Okay. So you have 2 choices here on making your massage oil. You could either pour some basic, either jojoba oil, almond oil, olive oil works, avocado oil works, any kind of vegetable oil that you can just pick up at Whole Foods, even some of the oils that we cook with, like avocado or olive oil, etc., sesame oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, all of those are great. And what you could do is you could pour it into like a little measuring cup or a beaker. And then what you could do is you could just go ahead and just pour your oil directly into your bottle until it reaches maybe up to about here. And I'm going to do that in a minute. The other option, right, is you could take 2 tablespoons like I have here, and you can pour 2 tablespoons into another kind of pitcher. Okay, so here I have my 2 tablespoons in my little beaker or a little cup or something that has a spout. And then what I can do is then go ahead and pour that in my bottle, or I can just pour directly from my big container into here and then fill it right up. I usually like to fill it just below a little bit of the curve. Do you see how I didn't go over that shoulder? I just went to about here. Now at that point, now it's time to add my essential oils. So I'm going to add about 25 total drops of essential oil. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add 7 drops of lavender. So I just added my lavender directly into my bottle. I'm going to do 5 drops of marjoram, I'm going to do 6 drops of coriander. So I have about 18 drops so far. And then I'm going to do 3 drops of Clary Sage. And so I'm a little short of 25, which is totally fine. And then I'm going to put the cap in. And then I'm going to shake it up. And now I have my massage oil, and I would use it before I go to bed by massaging it onto my neck, my chest, my feet, my lower back, anywhere where I feel tension in my body that I really want my body to release and relax. So that is how you make your massage oil. Now, the next recipe I have is a mist, okay, that you can spray on your pillows, on your bed, on your sheets, on your blanket, wherever you want, to kind of give you the aromatic experience that will help relax you. And it's basically the same kind of recipe, you guys, except instead of using oil, we're using distilled water. I recommend distilled water rather than tap water because all of the impurities have been removed. So the chances of your water growing weird stuff in it are much less. So here I have a 1 ounce spray bottle. And what I'm going to do is, in this recipe, I generally always add my essential oils first to the bottle. So I'm going to do 7 drops of, I'm going to do 10 drops of lavender. I'm going to do, this is coriander. I'm going to do 6 drops of coriander, so I'm up at 16. And I think I'm just going to do 20 because I have a very sensitive sense of smell. So 25 might be a little too strong. And I think I'm just going to add 1 drop of chamomile. Because remember how strong the chamomile was. And then once I put all the oils in, and this should always be a glass bottle. If you're ever blending essential oils directly together in a bottle, it should always be in glass. So let's say you don't have a glass spray bottle and you only have plastic, then what I would do is I would mix it all in like a glass Pyrex pitcher or a glass beaker first, and then pour it into your plastic bottle. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to have my essential oils on the bottom. I mix them up. And then I'm just going to take my distilled water and I am going to fill up my bottle to about the same place I did for the massage oil, right below the shoulder. I'm going to put the sprayer in, shake it up. And now I have my aromatic mist. So the best way to use these is you could use it around yourself. Just make sure you close your eyes and you can just spray it holding it like 12 to 15 inches away and misting around yourself. Or you could just mist it on your sheets and on your bed and in your room to get you ready for sleep. So I hope this gives you guys some ideas about how you can use essential oils to help you relax and have a deeper and more restful, restorative sleep. So those are the recipes. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And let's see here.
Thank you, Amy. This is wonderful.
Oh, sure.
We have had so many questions. I've been trying to. So I want to take some time now. Someone asked early on, they mentioned that they have allergies and certain sensitivities to different oils, like the lavender or tea tree and eucalyptus. And she was wondering what the reason for this was, if essential oils are are so good for you?
Everyone is really different, and everyone has a different response to different things. So I'm not really sure. I don't know who you are or what your medical history is or anything like that. So what I would say is often we develop sensitivities to aromas sometimes when the first ones that we experienced might have been synthetic ones. Synthetic molecules tend to trigger more allergic responses than naturals do. There's a lot of people who have scent sensitivities because there's been such an inundation of synthetics, but I don't, everyone's really different. There could be a million reasons why that's happening for you. But there also might be other oils that might be really relaxing for you. Unfortunately, without knowing more about your situation, it's hard for me to answer, but I wouldn't give up. Maybe try some citrus essential oils. That might be a really easy, simple way to get started.
Will you answer emails?
Yes, I'll try my best. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So another question that came up, I know we spoke a little bit about this, was about different ways of diffusing oil.
So diffusers are terrific, and there's so many different diffusers out on the market. I would say diffusers, there's like 4 camps of diffusers, 4 different types. There's the kind that you get like that you put water in, right? There's water, it's called a cool mist. And then you add essential oils, and then it's kind of like a vaporizer, right? It vaporizes the water, and then the molecules of the essential oils, because they don't ever solubilize with the water, they're just like lifted up through the steam and then dispersed in the air. And that is the most common that we see. And that triggers a really great olfactory or emotional response. Then we have what are called nebulizing diffusers, which actually don't use any water. It uses like sound vibration and pressure, air pressure, to actually vaporize the oils into these really micro kind of particles that then lift up in the air, and that we actually can inhale and absorb into our lung tissue. Anyone who might work in a medical setting knows that using nebulizers to deliver medications is one of the most effective ways to do it. I'm not saying that this nebulizing diffuser is like an inhaler, but its concept is similar. Like you put the nebulizer somewhere in your house, and then it vaporizes it, and the way that you breathe it into your body is similar. So that's a much more of like a medical delivery. And any diffuser that you use, it's recommended that it's on for maybe like 5-10 minutes, off for 20. And then going back and forth. You should never have it running 24/7 at high speed and disbursement at all times. There needs to be intervals. The next thing is a candle diffuser. When you have the candle and you drop it in a plate or something above it. And that just really releases the aroma for a short amount of time, because essential oils are very volatile. So any heat will disperse them really quickly. That's just really kind of an aesthetic for olfactory experience. And then there's what are called these hot stones, where they're electric. It's kind of like a ceramic thing that you plug in to the wall, and then it warms almost like a hot plate kind of thing. And then you drop an essential oil on it and it disperses the aroma. So that's also another option. So all of these you can find on Amazon. They all work great. I've also seen diffusers you could stick in your computer with a USB thing and a little pad to kind of diffuse it. So there's all ways to diffuse oils, and I think it's a great way to get the benefits.
Amazing. This is a question that's come up a lot. Can you speak to where you purchase essential oils? And I do know there are some resources in the guide that you sent.
Yes.
We'll be sharing that as well. but maybe if you could address that briefly.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared about 4 or 5 suppliers in the handout that you'll be getting. But, you know, I would say, I'll give you some tips. You'll get the names of the suppliers tomorrow, but this is what I would look for if you're buying essential oils, okay? Number 1, whenever you're buying an essential oil, it's really important that the company where you're buying it articulates either in their marketing or preferably on the label what plant it comes from. And the botanical name of the plant needs to be on the bottle. You want to know if it's actually coming from a natural source, because essential oils are really like adulterated and they come under the regulation of cosmetics, which actually has no regulation. So you want to make sure you're getting actually like a real essential oil. So I know someone was talking about sensitivities. So maybe like what you were smelling or what you thought was an essential oil wasn't actually even an essential oil. And what you're allergic to isn't even a natural substance. So that's one thing that's super important, is that you have to make sure that it actually comes from a plant, and it comes from the plant that it says it comes from. Okay. So that means if it's not listed on the label, you got to email or call the company and ask them, hey, you said this is pine oil, but I know there's like 20 million different kinds of pine trees. Which pine tree is this from? Okay. You need to kind of do that due diligence. And I know that sounds crazy, but I got to tell you, we do this with our food. It's not any different with how we eat our food, everybody. It's like, you look at the label and they're like pepper. You're like, well, what kind of pepper? Is it a ghost pepper or a jalapeno pepper or what? You know, because there's a difference between all the peppers, right? So you have to kind of approach it with that same mentality. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would, I really, honestly, you guys, I would practice smelling. Your nose is going to know. Our olfactory epithelium, the nerve cells in the back of our nose, are like a muscle. You can work it back into shape. So what I would do, those of you who have the kit that was sent to you, what you have there are gorgeous essential oils. You can use that as your kind of baseline. So like that lavender that you got in your kit, like maybe that be your test. And then you buy like a $5 lavender from Amazon and you smell the difference. You pay attention. And eventually your nose is going to get adjusted and be able to tell like what's natural and what isn't. Other little simple tests is I do what's called a paper test, where I take an essential oil and I drop it on like a piece of print, 8x10, just copy paper. And if it leaves a, and then I look at it like an hour later, and if it leaves like a greasy stain, like I spilled salad dressing, then I know it's not an essential oil. But if it totally evaporates and I almost can't even tell where I dripped it on my page, then you know it's probably 100% pure oil. So that's another way to tell quality. So those are just a couple of tips.
Amazing. I'm going to ask one last question because we're almost at time. If we're reusing glass bottles for our blends, what's the best way to clean them?
It's hard. I mean, really what I do, like if I have a bottle like this, I'll put it in the dishwasher, wash it in soapy water, and often I'll soak it with 70% or higher isopropyl alcohol. And that really helps get the smell. And I'll rinse it out with alcohol a couple of times and then just try to air dry it to make sure all water and everything is out of there. That's really the best thing I do.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amy, for this wonderful workshop. And thanks again to tonight's co-sponsors, the Greater Miami Jewish Federation, the Program in the Study of Spirituality, and the Stephen J. Green School of International and Public Affairs. If you enjoyed this program, we invite everyone to join us on May 11th at 7 p.m.
I'm taking a picture. It was so fun.
Yes, please do. For the next event in our
I could post
series,
about it. This was great.
It's called Spring Infusions and Herbs for Anxiety. So we'll be diving deeper into our senses. I'm going to drop the registration details into the chat and you'll be able to learn more and register. And lastly, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everybody. This was wonderful. And I just want to know too, we're going to be sharing, I'm doing a free workshop on April 27th. So we'll be putting that in the info as well. So I hope to see you there. Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much.